That's where I've said I would start shorting Bitcoin if it gets up there. With my members, I have a long on Bitcoin we're still holding. That would be where I would exit that and flip it into a short.
That's what you said last time you were here. You said when Bitcoin gets to 25,000, you would flip your long into a short. Are you a man of your word? Are you a man of your word? Are you going to flip your long into shorts?
So the answer is yes. I'm going to end up doing that. I haven't done it yet. I keep on thinking it's going to get up to about 25.3 to 25.5, and so I haven't been able to get filled on the exit yet. But the answer is yes, and I've also been alerting members to unload and start shorting different things. We shorted some Avalanche over the weekend. We started kind of dipping our toes into the water on other cryptocurrencies out there as well on the short side. So the key is this, is like, listen, could we break through? And you're right, by the way, you were saying, when we're hitting 25,000, are we chipping away at that? And the answer is yes, but it's also right to say that you still have a wall in front of you, which is 25, that we haven't broken yet. So does it turn out to be the breakout where we can get to 30,000? Which is the next major level, or does it stall here and it's unable to break through this epic 25,000 level? And what you can see here is that when we were in the bull market of 2021, it was the pivot low here, all this choppy kind of mid bull market lows, and then here's where we kind of went sideways and broke down. So if we did break through 25,000 and I do get filled on my short and I exit my long, then that's exactly what I'm going to be looking for. If we get above 30,000, then I actually would have to probably switch my narrative if we stay above 30,000, that the low is finally in on Bitcoin in this cycle. So again, right now, I'm not a believer that the low is in just yet, but if we got above and stayed, and this is the key, it can't just be one day where it pops above. You need to see it establish itself above 30,000. If it does that, then I think you have to start talking about that we are in the midst of a new bullish market. If we can, you can see the channel that we're in too, right? So not only is it that flat top at around 25,000, but we also have this upsloping kind of channel that we're in, and we're hitting the high end of that, right? So if we come down and if we can take out 22,000 to the downside, you have no major support until you get down to about 18,003 to 400. So that gives you at least about 7,000 on the downside before you hit major support. And that's assuming that we don't break that at some point and start heading back to the lows on the chart. As you can see clearly, it continues to run into major resistance. The 25,300 level continues to be the level that I have on the chart that is a sticking point for Bitcoin. All right, the reason it is, number one, you have a beautiful parallel channel right here. Look at the trend line, how it kind of connects through these highs, and then look at how many times we've pierced this line and haven't gotten through. In addition, the highest pivot, this is the highest pivot since the June collapse, right? Since this collapse over here, the highest pivot was at 25,000, approximately 300. So it makes sense that that's going to be a sticking point in the near term for resistance in Bitcoin. Now, again, am I short Bitcoin? The answer is no. In fact, in Verified Investing Crypto, we still have a long on Bitcoin, but I am kind of itching to move out of it and potentially short it. Now, we do have other short signals out there. Over the weekend, I pulled the trigger on an Avalanche short. So if we take a look at Avalanche here, Avalanche had a beautiful kind of move up on the daily, collapse to support, move back up, and then you're basically right into this resistance. So for me, we had already made about 16% on this short prior, and we covered it. Now it had gone right back up to where we shorted it before into resistance. I said, you know what? Let's try a good old-fashioned rinse and repeat. And the idea there is that it's double top, resistance, and also the Bitcoin chart is at resistance. So what I'm doing here, folks, is I'm using Bitcoin as a proxy. All right, so if Bitcoin breaks above that, then that would be a bullish thing for other cryptocurrencies. As long as Bitcoin doesn't break above this area that I've just shown, then in general, that's a negative for other cryptocurrencies. Now, Ethereum continues to have kind of the same channel lines up here. There's a lot of resistance. The positive on Ethereum, you could make a case that it's making bullish consolidation. It's not the prettiest, right? By no means is it the prettiest bullish consolidation, but it would be classified loosely as bullish consolidation. Now, what does that mean? Well, it could mean we have one more move up to maybe around $1,785 before we hit major resistance. All right, so again, keep an eye out for that. That is a possibility on ETH that you could have one more move up. What would change my mind? See this upsloping trend line that we got below briefly and tagged this support? If we start trading back below that, that would negate the bullish pattern, and you'd have to start expecting a bigger move back to the 1300 range on that chart. Yeah, so check this out. So this is a beautiful chart because it told us that the dollar was going to start to rise. Number one, we fell into major support right here. And also, if we go to your weekly chart, you can see this trend line to here and connected through this little low here. And it gave us exactly the low on the Dixie. Then what's even more beautiful, we got the 3-bar surge with a bull flag, right? So that told us that we were going to have a breakout, and the breakout is in motion. I had the Dixie going up to 105.50 before we hit major resistance. So there's more upside in the dollar. Prediction wise, I'm in the camp that the dollar topped when you had basically this high here. So I don't think, I would be somewhat surprised to see us make a new high on the dollar. I think that the US is going to be in kind of a long-term recession once it hits it. I don't think it's going to be a depression, but I think you're going to see this market and this economy that's stuck in this long-term kind of market where it just continues to be unable to get out of it because the Fed is unable, because of inflation remaining somewhat on the higher side, to print us out. So it's going to be like a shallow recession, but it's going to basically put us at a disadvantage compared to the rest of the world. I think you see a lot of the other global economies starting to gain on the US over the next 5-10 years.
So you last time came on the show, I asked you what your best trade for 2023 is. You said your best trade for 2023 would be gold.
Yep.
Still hold that thesis?
I do. Well, and remember, that's compared to the S&P as well as to Bitcoin. So we're not talking about like small caps or whatever like that. It's strictly those between those assets. I think gold is the place to be for two reasons. Number one, I do think it'll outperform percentage wise, but also for safety, right? So at any one point, we have to see what the regulation is in crypto. We don't know what that's going to be. We've heard all these crazy things like Kraken getting sued and having to settle with the SEC and all this stuff. We don't know there. That's risky for me. The stock market, to me, if we're going to see a recession in the second half, that's going to be very, very bearish. Remember, when the Fed tends to stop hiking, historically, it actually is this trigger for a bigger market sell-off. See what we got going on here. And again, bullish consolidation right there, again, on the S&P 500. Now, this is prior to what we're seeing today. We are seeing the spiders dropping pretty sharply. I'm not looking to play this bullish consolidation. Instead, I'm waiting patiently for a retrace to what I call the scene of the crime. What is the scene of the crime? Let's do some education right here. The scene of the crime is basically when you have a major breakout of a trend line and you retrace to that scene, essentially, of the breakout crime. All right, so if we zoom out on this chart on the spiders, you have a pivot high from the all-time high in the S&P, pivot high, pivot high, pivot high, pivot high, and you broke out right here above the blue line. So if we get back to that blue line, there's a swing trade opportunity, not a long-term. I'm not a long-term bull on the S&P, but a swing trade long, absolutely right there. That's at around 393 on the SPY, which is the tracking ETF for the S&P.